everyone, I'm Leanne,
And I'm Mike.
and this is Unschooled History.
So, Leanne, I understand we're going to crack the books again.
That's right. It's August. Here in the U.S., school is already starting up, which is a little scary. I know you and we can still remember when school didn't start until after Labor Day.
Yeah.
And didn't let out until the first day of June, at least.
Yeah. Late May, early June.
I don't know. I don't know why schools are starting so early every year.
They're in a rush.
I think in most countries they still don't start till 1st September.
Wouldn't surprise me none.
Well, I do know why we have summer break at all.
Why is that?
Farmers.
Yes.
They needed the farm hands. You have autumn break for the harvesting and winter break for Christmas, because there was once a time when it was called Christmas break and not winter break.
I remember those days.
There was once a time when spring break was called Easter break, but in reality it was for spring planting, because you would also end up planting right around Easter time.
Yeah.
And of course, summer break for all of the tilling and weeding and all the other work that goes into a healthy farm. So that's why Americans at least have summer break. I don't know about in other countries.
And probably other agricultural countries that the same reason.
Probably.
At least in the northern hemisphere.
Of course, and universities, of course, are no exception. They're going back to school now too, whether through virtual classes or in person, depending on what route each university has taken, especially in this time of COVID. Not that virtual learning is new to COVID, of course. It's been going on for years and years and years. I mean, I did my master's degree entirely online.
Yeah. I do a few courses that way.
And I know when I got my education degree, I had my class on special needs learners at both ends of the spectrums, both those who needed extra help and those who are considered geniuses and need to be in the genius programs like Wings, where we come from.
Yeah.
I did that entirely online.
Yeah.
And I actually had to take a class getting my education degree about teaching online and using the internet and computers and technological resources. So,
So online learning is nothing new.
No, it's nothing new. There is one class that I took where the teacher also taught a poetry class, and she had the students do poems entirely through Twitter, which is honestly the only reason I got a Twitter account in the first place. But then, I started using it for my books, and just to mouth off about my opinions. And I know why you have Twitter.
Why is that?
Well, isn't it to mouth off about your love of Coca-Cola?
And Crosstown Barbecue.
And fried chicken.
And Boomer Bear and the MSU Bears
and
soccer
Sweet
team.
Pea.
And Sweet Tea.
And the Glasgow Celtics.
Go Celtics.
But whether through virtual classes or in person, summer semesters have wrapped up. Incoming freshmen have had their tours and are moving into their dorms for their first taste of living away from home. That is, if they are at a university that is holding in-person classes. And, of course, the bookstores are selling books for 10 times what they're actually worth and probably 100 times what they'll pay you when you go to sell them back at the end of the semester.
That's about right.
I looked into that, by the way. I did. And it turns out that the reason that they are so expensive is partially because they are difficult to produce in the small quantities required, and also because believe it or not, some universities actually request minor little changes that really don't change a damn thing about what you learn, but just these minor little changes in what words are used. And that requires a small run. And as you and I both know, as self-published authors, small runs are expensive.
Oh boy, are they.
Hence why my books are like $12.99, you know?
Mm.
But, that's why. And it wouldn't be such an issue if they would all just pick an edition and stick to it. Most of the times when you get a new edition of a textbook, it's just one word's difference.
Yeah, but it's a word that what your instructors is going to pick out and pick on, unfortunately.
Not necessarily.
No.
But that's why many universities, of course, have gone to producing their own materials and having them online for free.
Mm.
And don't get me started on parking.
Oh, parking is a nightmare.
So as parents and students alike look around campus, pay too much for everything from books to computers to snacks at the campus bookstore, and struggle to find a place to park, a particularly nasty problem for commuting students like us,
Yeah.
they might be looking around and wondering, how did we get here?
That's a long tale.
It is a tale, in fact, that dates back to the early 6th century BC. Believe it or not. These ruins are from the ancient city of Taxila in Turkey, where the oldest known tertiary learning center existed. It dates back to the early 6th century BC, and the university there was renowned throughout the Achaemenid Empire for its classes in both science and the arts, as well as for its religious schooling. Many students were contemporaries of the Buddha, as well as some of his closest followers. So that's interesting. Now, what if I told you that this is in the Punjab province?
I'd be surprised.
Right, because you and I associate the Punjab province with Indian food.
Mm-hmm.
And with India, no. Turkey.
Really?
I guess it's like right on the border or something.
That fit with the way the Punjab is with the Sikhs.
Whatever. The food is good.
Yes.
The food is good. But yes, it is in the Punjab province in Turkey, in the ancient city of Taxila. There is a modern city of Taxila there that surrounds the ancient city.
Really?
But you can still go in and see you can still go and see the ruins and stuff, and it's really cool. So yes, that's the earliest, and of course, around throughout the Achaemenid Empire. Well, you know who the Achaemenid Empire is.
Persian, isn't it?
Yes. So this was actually originally part of the Persian Empire,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of cool. So 6th century BC, that's how far back higher learning goes. This lovely mosaic from Pompeii depicts the Academia, or Academy, founded by Plato in 387 BC. And believe it or not, Plato's Academy outlived Plato.
That surprised me.
It actually was around for nearly 300 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Aristotle studied there for 20 years himself before founding his own school. The academy actually sat at the site of a grove of olive trees sacred to Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom, which isn't surprising when you think about it and what the academy did. Now, it didn't really have classes like we think of them today.
No. Mostly, if I remember right, weren't they just where they sat around and questioned and answered each other?
Pretty much, yes. And many times it was in Plato's own room. And it was very much focused on philosophy. But it is still higher education. It really is. This is the University of Bologna. None of the earlier institutes of higher learning actually use the word university. The word comes from the Latin Universitas Magisterium et Scholarium.
Yeah.
I can pronounce my Latin, I promise. Meaning a community of teachers and scholars. And they emerged from medieval monastic schools, largely thanks to a papal bull, which is a public decree from the Pope. The first school to actually use the word university in its name is this one. Like I said, it's the University of Bologna in Bologna, Italy, and it was founded in 1088 by the students themselves. It's still a research university and one of the foremost institutions of higher learning in Europe and really in the whole world. It's still considered very prestigious to have your degree from the University of Bologna, especially their law school. That's what they're especially famous for. You think Harvard Law or UCLA Law or something like that here in the U.S., or maybe if you're thinking a little bit more broadly, you might be thinking of Oxford.
Yeah.
But in Europe, when they think of a prestigious law school, it's the University of Bologna. And there's good reason that it's famous for its law school. In fact, the purpose of its founding was to help foreign students with legal defenses not for their own crimes, but because the city had laws on the books that allowed for the punishment of foreigners for the debts and crimes of their countrymen. So if some German dude came into the city of Bologna and ran up a debt, and then 20 years later, another German dude came to study there who hadn't even been born at the time of the debt, he could still be punished for it, even if he wasn't even related to the dude who did it. So that was the big reason for founding this. Something else notable about the University of Bologna is that it was the first university to have a woman earn a law degree. Her name was Battisia Gozzadini, and she graduated in 1237.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you have early modern universities, such as the University of Basel in Switzerland, and they largely continued the curriculum of the medieval period. Classes included subjects such as philosophy, logic, medicine, and theology.
Yeah.
Other major subjects were law, mathematics, astronomy, astrology, and rhetoric, as well as proper grammar. It was still generally men who attended, but you did have women. And the official language of the university and of scholarly fields was still very much Latin. But it was starting to change, but it was still very much Latin. Now, the first university here in the U.S. was Harvard. And like many universities at the time in New England, it was founded for the teaching of mainly theology and law. It was established in 1636, so it's actually older than the country itself.
Yes.
And it's considered highly prestigious, having educated large numbers of Pulitzer Prize winners, Nobel laureates, head of states of multiple countries, and even royalty, having conferred a degree on Crown Princess Misaka Owada of Japan in 1985. So that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. They even offer online degree programs for people interested for a fairly reasonable cost.
They even have some free online programs.
Yes.
And there is this thing out there where upper middle class, okay, but middle class to those below the poverty line, they love it that when their kids are super smart and do really well in school, but then they flinch when their kid gets accepted into Harvard. Even though it's a great accomplishment, they're like, oh, how are we going to pay for it? Well, I was on the Harvard website, and I was poking around, and it turns out that Harvard actually has an excellent financial aid program. In fact, if your family is making, often Harvard families making, I think it's $65,000 or less.
I'm not sure.
When I looked on the website. But basically, families, if you are below the poverty line and your child gets accepted into Harvard, you're not going to have to pay that much at all. There is actually a line where they don't ask for a contribution of any amount from families below that line of income. So Harvard can actually be more affordable than most people think it is.
Yeah.
Which is good because actual tuition, if you're paying full price out of pocket, can be very expensive, just like any other university.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just so cool that they focused on making sure that it doesn't matter what socioeconomic class you come from, if you can get the scores and you meet their very rigid application process and all their requirements and everything. If they want you, they will take you and they will help make sure that you can afford to go. So if I had been a better student and had gotten accepted to Harvard, I actually calculated it out based on what I think my family was making back when I was in high school. My parents would have only had to pay $3,500 a year for me to go to Harvard. And I did not come from a wealthy family, and neither did you.
No.
So, that's pretty darn awesome. And I love places that do that. And of course, Harvard is one of the Ivy League schools, and so it's considered very prestigious. So what is the deal with Ivy League schools anyway? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what my research turned up, honey. It's actually an athletic conference.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised too. No, the 8 Ivy League schools are actually called that because they're part of the Ivy League Athletic Conference. But what does that mean outside of athletics? And we all just assume, oh, it's because they're so old that they're covered in ivy. Well, okay, that's part of it, actually. It actually has something to do with that because, you see ivy on the walls, you think it's old and therefore prestigious, and therefore you have to work really hard to go there, which you do. But the term first appeared in 1935. But it was in the 19th century that ivy planting ceremonies became a tradition on what is called Class Day. which is the day, I guess, that your graduating class all gets together.
Yeah.
And does something for the university and presents a gift to the university. So, in fact, the University of Pennsylvania still holds an annual Ivy Day for planting ivy on campus. They still do it every year.
Oh, wow.
And it's because of all this ivy planting that the schools and their athletic conference are called the Ivy League. So there you go. It does actually have to do with planting ivy at the school. So there you go. That's it. It was also in the 19th century that religion stopped being a major part of the curriculum at many universities, especially research universities. The modern university system was finally truly coming of age, especially now that women were attending more and more often. We were getting more female lawyers, more female doctors by the end of the 19th century, and especially into the 20th century. This was also when the German model for a research university made its way to the U.S., and it's a very successful model for a research university, as we see with this particular university here. This is Johns Hopkins University in winter, because this was such a pretty picture, and I had to grab it. I admit it, I pick a lot of this stuff for aesthetics. I'm very good at aesthetics. But no, this is Johns Hopkins University, and everybody knows it as this great medical research university. And we can thank the Germans for that, because they gave us the model for a research university that Johns Hopkins uses. So thank you, Germany, for that model of research university. Because Johns Hopkins has made so many medical advancements here in the U.S., and we can be grateful for that. Today, all universities share certain things in common. Though they may be organized or named differently, they have a board of trustees, a president, chancellor, or rector, as well as a division of departments or colleges, with a dean overseeing the faculty and students at each college, and in each division. Take, for example, our alma mater, Missouri State University, which is what this is. Absolutely beautiful campus, quite honestly. Of course, Michael and I might be biased.
Just a little bit.
I received my degree, my bachelor's of science and education here.
And I received my bachelor's in religious studies with a minor in history.
And of course, those are two different departments, because mine fell under the College of Education, his fell under the Humanities.
College of the Humanities, yes.
Yes. And you had the way cooler dean, I think.
I like Dr. Matthews.
Well, a lot of people like Dr. Matthews. That's why there was a shrine to him in the Religious Studies Lounge. With students leaving like little bits of candy or little pennies or whatever there in hopes of an A in his classes, because he has very difficult classes. But he's cool. He's very cool. He kept telling Michael that he needs to wear a coat, because Michael would walk around in midwinter without a coat on. And Missouri winters can be harsh.
I have a messed up thyroid in my own defense.
Oh, sure. It's the messed up thyroid that makes you able to go out in the cold. Mister, I used to walk in the snow naked.
That's beside the point.
Anyway, enough about my husband's weirdness. Missouri State University now has more than 60 departments and programs. It started as a teacher's college in 1904. It now has expanded beyond their College of Education into the arts, religious studies, history, archaeology, a nursing program, and they're working to have not only a pre-med program, but a full-on medical school. It's a great example of how the modern university system continues to evolve. Things like parking and expensive books will always be something we have to deal with for higher education, at least in countries where higher education isn't free. But there are so many options out there. If you choose to go to a university instead of a tech school or some other form of education, or even into the military, the important thing is to make sure that you're choosing a program that will let you follow your dreams. Hint, it may not be education no matter how many people tell you that it's a good fit for you, and no matter how many people ask you, so are you going to teach, when you tell them you're an English major. Trust me, I learned that one the hard way. I should have just stuck with my creative writing degree, y'all. Do not go into teaching unless it truly is your passion. Seriously. But remember, there's nothing wrong with choosing a tech school or starting with a local community college before transferring to a 4-year school. If you're planning on going to college, or if you're a parent whose child is preparing for this adventure, keep that in mind. And good luck, y'all. As always, make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you follow us on Facebook for daily history facts, a weekly Creepy Friday fact, an occasional live video, and the occasional really super funny meme or history joke. Bye.